About this right now with Scott Horne. We welcome him back, Vice President of Government Relations, Institute for Scrap Recycling Industries. Good to see you.
Thank you for inviting me back.
Look, Mark presents a interesting case. It's not new though, right? It's called give your stuff to your friends and they give you stuff back. You give me a table, I give you 4 chairs. This just happens to be online with credits, and as Mark put it very smartly, kind of with mileage and points. This is okay. It's a good idea, right?
It's fair enough. The EPA has a hierarchy: reduce, reuse, and recycle. Reuse is right up there, and that's what this is all about.
I looked at the number of users. I mean, it started from 0 to now 7 million. And one interesting stat was that 80% of the stuff that you and I and everybody else in here has in their house, we only use once a month. That means there's a lot. That means we have a lot of junk, essentially, and then if you throw it away, you feel very guilty. So this is good in the sense that we're not wasting something, and we're letting somebody else use something that we originally liked, but maybe not so much right now. I mean, could this be the next big thing?
Well, I think you've seen a type of reuse for some time now in the consignment shops and thrift stores. This is a little bit different take, and it may appeal to a lot of folks. So it could well take off.
Who's the target audience for this? I mean, when you think of recycling, everyone pretty much should know about recycling, but who are these companies focused on in terms of selling this idea to?
The idea Mark was talking about? I imagine their prime target are consumers. Folks probably in the 18 to 35 demographic, I would guess.
I saw one statistic, and you'll know what I'm talking about, that the majority of us, when we buy a new cell phone, we just throw the other one into the garbage can. Same with computers, same with cameras, same with all the stuff that we make such a big deal about when you buy it, of course, right? And you, of all people, know how important recycling is, and not only does it take space up at a dump, I'm not sure it's even good for the environment. I mean, where do you begin to educate people on this?
Well,
what should you do with your old stuff?
First of all, you should take it to a recycling center. They're called recycling centers, scrap facilities, whatever the case may be, and it really depends on what you're trying to recycle. But if we start with the facts, domestically, we generate, as a nation, about 250 million tons of waste per year. We recycle 130 million tons of material into valuable commodity-grade feedstocks. So you have to understand there's a difference between waste and recyclables, a very big difference.
Okay. Now, the skeptic in me says that 20 years ago I heard about recycling and how big of a business it would be. It didn't take off. 10 years ago, same thing. It didn't necessarily take off, and it's not in the front pages. What's the next 10 years going to be like? Have we reached that threshold where now people think of it as a business where we're going to take this table and we're going to make something else out of it? We're going to make an airplane out of it?
Well, I think, unfortunately, you may have fallen into the trap many of us have mindset-wise. Recycling didn't start in the late 80s. It actually started here in the US with Paul Revere several hundred years ago. Most of my members are second, third, fourth generation businesses, many of which are over 100 years old. And they've been making profits on this material for a long time. As a matter of fact, last year, it was almost $90 billion that we generated.
Well, my question is, what will it take to get more people around the world to recycle, reuse? You can call it sharing, you can call it recycle, whatever you want to call it, just avoid throwing into the garbage can, essentially, is where I'm getting at.
Well, I think it is education, for one part. And the second part is making sure that government doesn't get in the way of recycling, doesn't create impediments or disincentives to recycling.
Very quickly, I only have time for one more question. What's the one thing that gets you most excited about this sort of recycling industry? What's the hot thing that you're looking at right now?
Oh gosh, I think the future for plastics recycling, particularly from automobiles and so on, just that is a future coming. It's just starting now, and that's going to boom.
Scott, I love your optimism. It's good to have you, Vice President, Government Relations, Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries. Good to have you.
Thanks again.